Well, good afternoon, everybody. We will kick things off. And as you probably saw through some of the marketing and advertising for our virtual game of golf, we are saying goodbye to March Madness and hello golf season. So for those of you that jumped on a little early, as you can maybe see in the video here, we'll highly encourage you to think about a fabulous golf course that you've either been to, maybe that you wish that you've been able to play at or seen on TV, and feel free to pop it up in your Zoom background. I know we've got some golf courses from Pebble Beach, Maui, I believe, Vancouver, and I'm at the Masters today. And so we wanted to get things moving and tee things off with a small phrase that I think means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. But it says, have you ever heard of the phrase, business gets done on the golf course? Well, if you haven't, you have now. And what we wanted to do is really take the virtual world that we're living in and bring it to a game of golf and talk a little shop. So thank you so much for joining us. We will tee things off on the front nine with a panel discussion. I will be your moderator. My name is Kellie Jax, Head of Sales and Strategic Business Partnerships at gem.health. And this is Dr. Mike Howell, and he will be on our panelist today. So I'd like to share a little bit more about your golf partner, Mike Howell. He is the Co-Chief Scientific Officer at gem.health. He is an expert in the management of sleep disorders, as well as an educator of other clinicians in developing novel management strategies for people suffering from sleep disorders. Dr. Howell is a professor of neurology at the University of Minnesota, the vice chair for education, and the division head of sleep medicine. And finally, Dr. Howell is board certified in sleep medicine through the American Board of Psychiatry and Neurology. Now, don't let that intimidate you. Who knows what his golf swing is like out there? But what we do have up in front of us, first off, is a par 4. Dr. Howell, it's about 300 yards, so you'll have to figure out which club you're going to use, and we'll kick things off. Tom Brady.
It's been a long time since I've successfully landed on the green. So with a short par 4, so I think I'll probably lay up with a fairway wood. I think
I like it. I was wondering if you were going to be a little rusty or not. I'll kick things off with our first question and with a little pre-header here. So Tom Brady aims to be in bed by 8:30 p.m. every single night. LeBron James plans his life around sleeping 10 hours a night. Justin Verlander sleeps 10 to 12 hours every single night. In the past few years, the world's premier athletes have discovered a new performance-enhancing supplement for their training regimens: sleep. So, Dr. Howell, we'll tee things off. Can you share your experience working with premier athletes and the impact sleep has on their performance?
Well, thank you, Kellie, and thank you everyone for helping put this together. And we look forward to, we're going to post this online for everyone later.
And we'll try to stay on theme throughout the whole game of golf.
Right. Well, I'll do my best. Probably need a caddy to keep me in line. All right. Well, so sleep is critically important for brain and body health, and it's critically important to perform, whether or not that means just staying awake while driving into work, or whether or not that means chipping a putt in, or hitting a free throw, or hitting a 3-pointer. Athletes have grown to recognize that sleep is a critical additional component, and athletes are on the leading edge of performance. Athletes were the first ones to really start nailing down nutrition well, to really start nailing down personal training. And now we are at the point where most athletes already have their personal training really dialed in. They already have their nutrition extremely dialed in. But what they don't have often is they often are still struggling with sleep. They may have underlying sleep disorders. They're certainly sleep deprived. They have to sleep in different environments. And those who can master that, this provides them an incredible performance edge. If you're in a sport that requires response times and accuracy, you can expect a 3 to 5% improvement in reaction time just by getting a couple extra hours of sleep, and then you can add on to that if you are really optimizing your sleep. For golfers, golfing is skill acquisition and repetition of that skill. And so better sleep can help golfers both in terms of their training, in terms of mastering shots. They can hit 1,000 balls, but they can hit 1,000 balls on the range, but it's really that night, or sometimes even better during a nap in the afternoon when they're going to consolidate those games. So if they're working on a fade, a little bit of extra sleep at night or just a little power nap after training goes a long way in terms of consolidating that those practice gains. In addition to that, for elite golfers, or for the rest of us as well, the kind of sleep you get the night before really goes a long way in helping ensure that you're going to be performing at your best, as well as making appropriate judgments, making sure that your hands have exactly the right touch that you're looking for. Many of us, I'm sure, have been watching the Netflix series Full Swing, and what I'm thinking about when I'm watching them, especially as they go through a 54 or 72 hole tournament, is what their sleep is like leading into that last night.
Well, absolutely. You saw my face light up, and I saw Mary get excited when you mentioned the Netflix series Full Swing. And it is pretty incredible how they talk about sleep and some of the preparations they do prior to these very large platforms of playing golf in front of the world. So Mike, when we were prepping for our discussion today, you talked a little bit about brain performance. So we've got a 610-yard par 5 coming up. What is the best way to drive better brain performance?
Sure. So brain performance is a combination of practice and sleep. You got to have both of them. So whatever it is that you are trying to do, if you're trying to learn French, if you're trying to make the high school volleyball team, if you are trying to get a PGA Tour card, you need both of those. You need excellent training, and you need sleep to consolidate those gains. What's happening when you are sleeping, specifically let's just talk about swinging. Whatever the pathways that are coming from the brain from the motor cortex through this brainstem, augmented by cerebellar pathways. That's what manages coordination. And then being able to repeat that swing appropriately time and time again, that is happening when you are sleeping. That is when your brain is laying these pathways down. And so one of the best things you can do is develop. One of the best things that elite golfers can do is they can develop a routine where they can build naps into their training program immediately after their training. And if it's not possible to take a nap at the range or at the golf course, a few other things you can do is just intense, short visualization. So 3 minutes, not longer, of intense visualization of going through moment by moment the swing accurately, and a good shot you can replay in your head. You can get practice for free by activating some of these supplementary motor pathways that then, if you take a nap, you are going to augment. And we do this for elite athletes. We do this for golfers. We do this for baseball players, for football players. We do this for musicians. Whoever's trying to get a little bit of a gain, some visualization and combined with sleep, or practice combined with sleep, goes a very long way.
Wow. I bet Danielle Kang would appreciate that nugget of information and maybe a pivot in her natural routine. And speaking of, we have a par 4, 415 yards. In an interview last November with Golf Digest, current world number 11, Danielle Kang spoke about how much her success in golf relies on getting healthy sleep. I know you
Mhm.
mentioned this, Mike, with all of the travel and the touring pro athletes do, they oftentimes don't get good sleep. When this happens to Danielle Kang, she knows she'll underperform. So with that, Dr. Howell, how does the pervasive prevalence of poor sleep affect golfers? How does the pervasive prevalence of poor sleep affect employees in the workplace?
Sure. Well, most individuals will fairly frequently struggle with sleep, either just sleep deprivation. They will suffer with a little bit of jet lag, not even if they're not traveling across time zones. Just their social and professional schedule will change from day to day. Daylight saving time changes. So their underlying body's 24-hour clock is going to be disrupted. Then if you combine the fact that tremendous number of people are suffering from sleep disorders, such as obstructive sleep apnea, as well as insomnia, restless leg syndrome, and those their brains are not able to get the refreshing benefits of good, healthy sleep. And then finally, just tremendous numbers of us are struggling with our sleeping environment. It's either too noisy, we may have a bed partner who's snoring, it could be too hot, it could be too cold, there could be light exposure that's interfering our brain's ability to get deep, restful sleep. And this causes, to answer your question, this is going to, all of these things are going to combine to make it more difficult, especially for elite golfers who have to do traveling, sleep in foreign environments all the time, and is going to interfere with their ability to perform well. Their shots are going to be hang on. Their shots are going to be off. They will lose a little bit of their touch.
Hold on one sec, Mike. One of our golfers has their music playing too loud. If you could please put yourself on mute, or quiet down in the galley, I think is what they say. Mike's about to hit.
Oh, dear Lord.
I told you I was going to try to stay on.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for that. Yeah, so no, your putts are going to be a little off, your touch is going to be off, and you're not going to have as consistent of a swing. But for employees, what is it that you do at work? So, what if you have to be creative, it's more difficult to be creative. You're more likely to have writer's block, trying to craft exactly the right email when you have to make emotional, intelligent decisions in terms of how interact with maybe a challenging colleague or a client. That's going to be difficult if you're not sleeping well. And then just being able to stay awake and alert, right? So how many challenging afternoon meetings do we have that are difficult to stay awake and alert for? That's going to be difficult if you're not sleeping well.
Great, thank you. It looks like we have a few extra golfers that came late to the game. Just to catch you guys up to speed, we're on the front nine still, continuing to do a Q&A with Dr. Mike Howell. We have a few holes left before we move into the back nine, which is going to be our Q&A session before we head out to the golf clubhouse, for a post-game of beverage. So, Dr. Howell, I have a 200-yard par 3 for you. What do we know about how treating sleep apnea affects golf performance?
Well, there was a nice study done a couple of years ago that showed that for golfers who have sleep apnea and then treat it, they have a improvement of about 3 shots on an 18-hole round. After their sleep apnea is treated, which is not surprising based on everything that we've already talked about, how much better the brain functions once you're sleeping better. So sleep apnea is very common. Tremendous numbers of people are struggling with it. If we can help you get it taken care of, there's a variety of treatments. One treatment is called CPAP, which many of you have heard of, but there are other treatments as well, including dental devices and other therapies. We can help your brain function better, including golf better.
Wow. For any of you avid golfers out there and you're looking to bring your score down or improve your golf game, if you think you have sleep apnea, it'd be in the best interest to probably get that tested and then treated, and it can improve that golf game. That's incredible. I love that. All right. We've got a final par 3 for you. Why do so many people struggle to treat their obstructive sleep apnea, and what does Gem Health do differently?
So obstructive sleep apnea is incredibly common, and not everyone's sleep apnea is the same. Sleep apnea exists on a spectrum. There's mild, there's moderate, there's severe, and each individual person, their sleep apnea will affect differently. Sleep apnea is the collapse of the upper airway during sleep. It's incredibly common. Tens of millions of Americans have obstructive sleep apnea that is not currently being treated, and this leads to long-term consequences ranging from heart attacks and strokes to fall asleep car accidents to poor golf games. So what we do at GEM is first try to understand who is the right person to get a sleep study. And can get a home sleep test. We evaluate people at home so they don't need to come into a sleep laboratory, and then recognize that not everyone's sleep apnea is the same. Some sleep apnea can be treated relatively conservatively, sleeping on your side, propping up, minimizing alcohol use at night. Others can be treated effectively with an oral appliance, which just looks like an athletic mouthguard. And some people require CPAP therapy, which is positive airway pressure. It's a mask that helps keep the back of the throat open. In addition to that, there are other therapies that have come along. Some of you may be familiar with the treatment called Inspire, which is also a treatment for obstructive sleep apnea, but those are not the only ones, and there are more coming. In addition to that, once an individual is given a treatment, oftentimes they need coaching and support to make that treatment successful. And that's probably what we're most proud of at GEM is our support staff and our coaching team that really can help people get used to the treatment, whatever that may be, whether or not it's CPAP or an oral appliance, to help them get used to see the benefits from their sleep apnea treatment, and ultimately make their treatment as easy and as much of a burden as brushing your teeth before you go to bed. Everyone on the visit here brushes their teeth when they wake up in the morning and brush their teeth when they go to bed at night, and they don't think twice about it. Ultimately, that's our job when it comes to managing sleep apnea, to make it that easy and that subconscious.
Yeah, and knowing what I know about the member experience at GEM as well, we are supporting throughout the entire sleep apnea journey. Every one of the patients will have a coach to work with them throughout the experience to help adjust to a big change, adjust to a new diagnosis, adjust to a treatment plan that they will likely have to use for the rest of their life. And I think it's a really incredible model where we're essentially putting the patient on autopilot and setting them up for success. Because I know, Mike, if you hadn't already shared this, 50% of those who try or use CPAP within the first 30 days fail. And at GEM, our mission is to really create success in your treatment plan so you can have a better golf game, so you feel less groggy at work, so you have a higher quality of life, and you can enjoy a fun day out on the golf course. All right. Well, I think it's about time to move into the back nine. So this is an open panel Q&A. What questions might you have for Dr. Howell or for myself? We'd love to see some questions come through in the chat.
Kellie, I'm so you are really holding on to this theme. You are not going to let this go. We're all very impressed.
Well, I want everybody to know, as you're thinking about your questions, I told Dr. Howell that if he was going on a little too long, or if we were running out of time, I was going to chime in and let him know that the foursome behind us wants to play through, and we better hurry up. But we're doing a great time. We're right on the clock here. I think the clubhouse would be proud of us.
All right, we got a question here. So thank you for the question. It has to do with, I really appreciate this because it has to do with what is the best time to perform if you want an elite game. This is a really important question, and we deal with this when it comes to athletes all the time, which is to try to understand is for what time of the day are you going to be competing, because that is the time of day that you would like to be practicing, which is not, for those of us who have jobs, or school, that is often extremely difficult to do. But when we're helping a elite marathon runner, and most marathons are usually run in the morning, that's when we want to help them train. If they're going to be performing in the afternoon, we try to adjust their circadian rhythm around so that they are at their peak moment of responsiveness and alertness. For example, Usain Bolt, fastest human being alive, runs faster at 4 o'clock in the afternoon than at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's just normal human physiology. And so the goal is to figure out for each individual person, when is their time of elite performance, which is usually would be late afternoon after a good nap. And I say a good nap because a lot of us will take naps and sometimes they're not good naps. But we like to train people to become really good at napping, especially professional athletes such as baseball players, basketball players, hockey players who have to perform usually in the evening, get them to become extremely good nappers, and then to perform later in the afternoon, which is usually the moment when their reaction times are usually the fastest and those neurons are functioning at their best. But that being said, you can still become an elite golfer playing in the morning, as most golf rounds often start frequently in the morning.
So none of us should be upset with ourselves if we take a little afternoon siesta or a little cat nap in the middle of the day, huh?
Right. Well, and this is which ties into the very next question that someone asked, which is what do we think of napping? So human beings are natural nappers. Most of us don't get the opportunity to nap because of work. We also frequently will ingest, including myself, in variety of there it is, variety of caffeinated beverages, which are going to interfere with an individual's ability to nap. However, if your livelihood depends upon your physical performance, it is just critical to become a good napper, because that will improve your human physiology and your physical performance.
Any other questions from the golfers today? All right. Well, it looks like we are ahead of schedule, so I call that a hole in one. Was that too cheesy?
Not at all. Not at all, Kelly.
All right. Well, I don't think there's any harm in giving just a few minutes back to all of the golfers today. I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us in a fun game of virtual golf. We hope that you enjoy hole 19, which is your free beverage. And I'll be reaching out to each of you individually with your gift card details. And since we do have about 3 minutes left, we also kind of wanted to call this tail end of the golf session the time in which we meet at the clubhouse and do a little networking, toast with a drink, etc. So again, feel free to stay on if you want to turn your cameras on and say hello. We're happy to stick around and hang out for a few more minutes